Hello, wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Daawadayaal ku soo dhawaada Bulsho Show. Halkaas waa naga daawanaysaan saacad kasta waana daawanaysaan. Showgan maanta waxaa marti inooga ah Dr. Mark White. Showgan wuxuu ku bixi doonaa af Ingiriisi. Daawasho wacan oo xiiso leh. Dr. Mark White, welcome to Dalmar TV.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
We're good. Fantastic. Dr. White, I want to start off by first by with COVID-19 vaccination. Where we are so far, we have over close to 7 million people who has been vaccinated in the state of Ohio. How close do you think we are with the herd immunization?
Right. I think that we're doing really well. The last I checked, there were 309 million people that have been vaccinated, and about 144 people that have been fully vaccinated. So there's been a good solid number of people that have been vaccinated, and those the herd immunity we're getting there. We really are getting there. People are becoming more comfortable. We still have a population of people that are just anti-vaccine, and I think that is due to the just hearing so much information, not really understanding the science, thinking in some situations thinking that there's a conspiracy theory, just different things. But I think people are understanding more and more. They're seeing the results that things have gotten a lot better since we've been vaccinated. And I think people are going to I think more people are going to come around now. Now that you're going to have a certain amount of people that are not going to do it. But I think for the most part, the majority of the Americans will. We're close to herd immunity because we have there's 350 million people in the United States, and 309 people have been vaccinated thus far.
Well, I think if you look at the way the pharmaceutical companies have, based on their sharing information, that didn't help, or at least win the confidence of the mass people who are needed this vaccination, and that play a part for this hesitation for people not to take the vaccination. And obviously, like as you said, this all kind of news is kind of going back and forth. Most of it is fake. So when it comes to COVID or any kind of body related, how does the sleeping play a part?
Well, I think that as it's interesting, and it's good that you're asking that question, because now that I think, pre-COVID, a lot of people had poor health, and unfortunately, a lot of minorities were in that group. Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, cancer. We were at the top of the charts on a lot of these chronic illnesses, and so I think what COVID-19 has done, it has gotten our attention that we need to be healthy. How can I be healthier? And I think what I've heard from patients, what I'm hearing from patients now is what's a healthy lifestyle look like? What are the things that I need to do to be healthy? And one of the important things that I tell people, and it's not so obvious because we've been indoctrinated in a sense to believe that if you can get less sleep and do more work and get coffee and get through the day, then you're a champion. The less sleep that you get, the better off that you're doing, the more productive you can be. And actually, it's quite the opposite. It's unfortunate that we've grown up in a society thinking that you really don't, that sleep's not important. Quite the contrary, it's as important as exercising and eating the right kinds of food. So let's look at sleep. There are 4 stages of sleep that we go through at night. And I'll point out the importance of sleep as I go along and why we need to have that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. You hear a lot about, well, I can do good on 5 hours of sleep, or I don't need that much sleep. Let me take you through the stages and point out the importance of the stages. So, stage one, and most people will relate to this. Stage one is that stage where you're just a little drowsy. You can be easily awakened by a noise or someone talking. That typically will last about 10 to 15 minutes. Stage two is a little deeper. You're a little deeper in sleep. That's when somebody has to really kind of shake you a little bit and to wake you up. And that stage lasts anywhere from, oh, 30 minutes to 40 minutes. Now, after stage two, we go to stage three, which is considered a deep sleep. That stage three is deep sleep phase. That's the phase that you want your body to get to each night, because that's the stage where your body does its cleanup work. All the all the oxidative or bad chemicals or bad substances that have accumulated in your body during the day are cleaned up during that deep sleep phase. And also there's immune cells that are made at that point for your body. Your body starts to make certain chemicals that you need for the next day. So there's a lot of important things that happen when you go into that deep sleep phase. That phase typically can last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And then what we start to do is stage four. And stage four is a stage, it's called rapid eye movement. Most people refer to that as REM sleep. And when a person gets to REM sleep, that's the stage where people dream. You don't dream when you're in the deep sleep phase, and certainly the other phases that we mentioned, those aren't dreaming stages. But when you get to stage four, which is that REM sleep, that's when the dreaming occurs. That's when memory, learning, and problem solving occur in that REM sleep. Now, it's kind of interesting how this works, because once you start your REM cycle, it goes in 90-minute increments. So the first cycle may last for only your first REM rapid eye movement phase may last only 10 to 15 minutes. You come out of that phase and you go in for about 90 minutes, and then you enter into the second REM phase. So you cycle through these rapid eye movement phases, and they last long. They last longer and longer. So the more times you cycle through, the more time that you spend in that rapid eye movements phase. And so you want to spend enough time in the rapid eye movement phase of that REM sleep so that it improves your memory for the next day, it improves your learning ability, and it also improves your ability to problem solve. And so when if you don't, let's say you sleep for 4 hours, well, if you do the math on that, you can understand that each time you go into that REM, that rapid eye movement, You spend a little time with that rapid eye movement, and then you come out of that. 90 minutes go by. You go into the rapid eye movement part again. You're in there for a little bit longer each time. So the more total time that you spend sleeping, the more time that you're going to spend in that rapid eye movement phase. And so, sleep now, when you talk about having a healthy lifestyle, you can't, we can't sacrifice our sleep for getting more work done. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to get the right amount of sleep so your body can be healthy. You can produce the right kinds of immune cells. It's going to make you healthier. Those people that do are good sleepers and they're not sleep deprived tend to be healthier. People that don't get enough sleep tend to be obese. Have We see more patients with diabetes that are sleep deprived. We know that our blood pressure. You see high blood pressure with people that don't get enough sleep. And the one probably, well, they're all important, but one of the things that we're seeing now is the rate of Alzheimer's and dementia is skyrocketing, and it's related to poor sleep or sleep deprivation. And so um, we have to look at that when we talk about
Well,
having.
Doc, I don't mind, but I actually tend to catch myself being a part of conversation with old friends of mine, and sometimes some of the conversation they say that we were all together, but sometimes I don't remember. And the average time that I normally sleep is about 6 hours. So you say maybe I'm one of those who could be diagnosed for that description you just described?
Yeah, because because remember the science and the studies show that people that get less than 7 hours of sleep tend to have higher blood pressure, diabetes, more weight, um, uh, tend to live less. Your living your lifespan is less. I mean, it's been shown and proven that people that are sleep deprived live less time, and we just have to really. And I know that for a lot of people that might be listening to this, they're probably just kind of saying, "Wow, um, either I don't believe it or I didn't know that." And I think that if you're going to be able to exercise like we need to exercise, go to work and be productive, um, interact with your family and friends, you got to have the sleep. You got to get this sleep down. And there's lots of ways of going about it if you haven't been doing it. First of all, you gotta you gotta be uh, um, you got to sit just like you set time to go to work. You got to be at work at 9 o'clock and you leave at 5 o'clock. We need to take our sleep just as serious. I'm going to go to bed at 10. I'm going to get up at 6 or 7 or whatever time we get up. And we need to protect that because it's very important. And we don't, nobody wants to develop Alzheimer's or just have a bad memory. But if you don't get enough sleep now, that's what's down the road. I mean, it just is, unfortunately.
Speaking of minority, unfortunately, most of us have experienced bad health, as you said it. Now, the diet also is a major part of it. So, can you speak about the benefit of fasting?
Yes, and fasting is very. And we'll do a part one and a part two. I'll hit it from a overview.
Right.
that um, here's what happens when a person fasts. Okay, so let's say that you eat a meal, and you eat the meal, and glucose, the food is broken down into glucose molecules, and that those the glucose is used for energy. That glucose that's not used immediately goes to the liver, and it's stored in the liver as glycogen. Glycogen is the storage form of this glucose molecule. When you need energy, your liver uses that glycogen. The average time, if after a meal, the average time that that glycogen will stay in the liver is about 10 to 12 hours. So 10 to 12 hours. And after that, the liver no longer has the glycogen stores that it needs, and the switch occurs. And that switch that occurs is the body starts to use fat as its source of energy. So the fat is broken down into fatty acids. The fatty acids are broken down into ketone bodies. Those ketones. Let's look at the brain, since when we talked about sleep, we're talking about brain power and the brain health and being alert and being able to learn and memorize, problem solve, being more productive. So once you start to use fat as your source of energy, you get these ketones that are produced. They go to the brain, and the brain begins to use ketones as its source of energy. There's a couple of other things that occur during this process when you get this metabolic switch. The brain produces what's called neurotropic factors. Neurotropic factors. And these neurotropic factors, to simplify it, these factors will start to make those neurons grow and connect. The synapses between neurons start to get, because the brain feels like it's being stressed. And so it starts to, when those neurotropic factors, you can kind of think about those neurotropic factors like antibodies for the brain. The brain starts to produce these neurotropic factors, and these neurons start to really go wild. I mean, they start to grow, they start to connect, the connections are more strong. And so there you have another situation where fasting is producing a healthy brain. And so we got to look at that. For those of you who don't know about there's something called intermittent fasting, and we can get into the details of that next week. But intermittent fasting is a really healthy thing for the body, and I think that not to mention to me, one of the most important things, the spiritual value, the spiritual value of fasting. I mean, unbelievable. People, certain cultures and religions have been fasting for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years they've been fasting. They get it. They get that. The value, the spiritual value, is um, is it's just, you can't. It's uncomparable to anything else. Let alone the physical values that we now understand, the science, even with these neurotropic factors, and how the neurons just start to grow and grow and synapse. Studies have shown that those children that get more sleep do better on testing. They're able to problem solve better. And so I switched around. I went from fasting to sleep. I was so on that sleep, but Again, I think that the fasting, we really need to take a look at that. So now we're talking about healthy lifestyles. We're talking about how can I be the healthiest person? How can I have my body be the healthiest that it can be? And we've hit on two big ones: sleep and fasting. And we went into detail with the sleep, and I hope that people can take away. The takeaway from that sleep is that you have to sleep long enough to get into that rapid eye movement phase. You just have to, because if you don't, you're setting yourself up for a shorter lifespan, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular problems, just all kinds of problems with health. And and so I think that's one area that I wanted to share with the community. And there's more to the fasting. I want to break that fasting down, um, and explain this, because there's different types of fast, and so I want to share that with people, so they can understand. There, certain fasts are not for everyone. You may be a person that may end up only eating one meal a day. Can you imagine that? Imagine that, one meal a day, and be healthy, and feel good, and feel energetic, and be productive on one meal a day. That's we don't we haven't we That's not how we've been. Uh, our minds have not been trained. We've been What we've been trained on is 3 meals a day. That's the basic: breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, Doc, we're gonna let you guys catch up on that part. We just had a whole month where we fast for about 18 hours, and
Right.
so it has major beneficial and health wise for those who had blood pressure, diabetes. Everything has upgraded into a positive side of the and also the benefit of is the losing the weight. Also, it's a plus to have those 28 to 30 days where people fast. It's unbelievable results.
And one of the things I want to mention when you talk about the weight, um, excuse me, with this pandemic, those people that were hospitalized and put on the ventilators, the top three problems that, when you look back at it, was obesity,
Hmm.
diabetes. Yeah, obesity and diabetes were big risk factors. So when you look at the people that entered the hospital and that were admitted, diabetes, obesity, those were two of the main health problems that got people a ticket into the hospital. And we know that there was a lot of people that died from this COVID-19.
Now, speaking of COVID, if you come back to the COVID situation, where are you guys administrating more shots than beginning, or is less more people are more coming more, less and
Yeah,
less?
people are asking for the vaccine. I think people are more comfortable. They have seen the results of what has happened with the vaccination. People are, the numbers went down. The mask, social distancing, um, those were all a result of having that vaccine. Um, and so people are now I think people now are saying, I don't want to be left out. Let me get me a vaccine, because they
Right.
see the benefit, the value of the vaccine.
Speaking of value, as a minority, have the numbers been picked up? Because recently, most of minorities were the most community that have not voluntarily came out to get vaccinated.
Yes, still low. Of the people, the percentage of people that have not been vaccinated, we are at the top of that list. We just are. It's kind of ironic when you think about COVID-19 and minorities were, um, African Americans, new African Americans, Africans, people of color.
Mhm.
We suffered the most
Right.
per capita. I mean, we just did. We did. I mean, you heard about it, and now we a lot of us won't take the vaccine, and so we gotta keep pushing. We gotta keep talking about it. We gotta keep educating. You know, we get places in life, I think, in communities by communicating, and I think certainly Delmar TV has been instrumental, I believe, in helping communicate and educate the community. And I'm really grateful that you've asked me every time you ask me to come on and share information that can help the community. I'm have a lot of gratitude for that.
Well, as always, we'll see you next week. Thank you for the great information.
Have a good evening. We'll see you later. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Coming up next, we have interview with Dr. Vanderhof, who is the medical chief of Ohio State. And now joining us is State Chief Medical Officer Dr. Vanderhof. Dr. Vanderhof, welcome to Delmar TV.
Very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
What happens if an individual does not get the second dosage or the second vaccine?
Well, the vaccines that require 2 doses require them for a very important reason, and that is that there is a booster effect that happens after that second dose of the vaccine. And it's that second dose that assures 2 really important things. One, it assures that you're going to be able to attain the maximum level of immunity and the long lasting immunity that, of course, we all want from this vaccine. It would be a shame to get a vaccine and not get the duration, the long lasting effect that we're looking for. And that second dose is really key for that.
Will the vaccine if interfere other medications if the individual is already on other medications?
Well, I think if you have multiple medical problems, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor about any vaccine. However, having said that, this vaccine is allowed, it's indicated for people with a whole variety of medical conditions. So in most circumstances, no, it will not interfere with the medications that you're taking.
The next question is similar. Are vaccines safer for people with autoimmune disorders like lupus, Parkinson, Alzheimer?
So we are still studying the effects of the vaccine in special populations. But when the vaccines were released, they were released with permission to be utilized in people who have immune problems. But here's the question that we don't quite understand yet. And that is, will the immune problem that you have diminish the effect of the vaccine? And that's possible with any vaccine. However, having said that, you're probably better off getting the vaccine, even if the impact is somewhat diminished.
How far are we of achieving herd immunity?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and it's one that doctors all around the country have been asking, actually now for a period of months. One of the challenges is none of us really is able to define truly what herd immunity is, but I can tell you this. We feel fairly confident that if we can continue the rate of vaccinations that we're seeing now, that we can get enough people vaccinated before we get to the fall to avoid another surge like we saw last winter. And that's the real goal. So for me, when we talk about herd immunity, we're talking about enough immunity in the group, in the population, to ensure that we don't have to go through another winter like we went through this past winter. We're not there, but we're well on the path. I wish I could give a specific number, but right now it's too early to tell. But I don't think we're too far away from getting there.
daawadayaal caawi showgeena intaasuu ku egyahay waxaan isku daynaa inay soo bandhigno showyo kala bedelan oo ku kala saabsan qaybo kala bedelan waa inoo mar kale oo xiiso leh mahadsanidin asalaamu calaykum